Okay, so yesterday we learned 4 ways to learn that Chametz Pesach is also bana, and today I think we're going to learn another 4. So the first way was, according to Chizkiah, he learned that whenever it says Lo Yeh Achel, it means Isser Hana, and he knows it from the Lo Yeh Achel that it says by Shratzim, and by Shratzim it had to say Lachem to teach you that it's Mutter B'Hana, so that's how he knew that Lo Yeh Achel by default means it's Osir B'Hana. Then you had Rabbi Vo, who said that anytime it uses a lashon achila, it automatically means an isra hana. And the question is how he knows that. According to Reb Meir, he knows it from nevela, because the Torah says l'sheichel kol nevela, and then it says that lagar asher b'shrechet titnana oymachol nachri. So the fact that you could sell it to a guy shows you that you could have enough. Why would the Torah need to tell you that you could sell it to a guy? It only says that it's asher b'achila. Elamai, it must be that l'sheichel includes this right now also, and that's why by nevela the Torah had to specify that you're allowed to have a nod from it to teach you that unless the Torah specifies that you're allowed to have enough from it, l'sheichel will automatically include iser hana. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, we know it from the diuk of by treifa, it says la kelav tashlichun oisai. Only treifa you're allowed to have enough from and give it to your dog, but everywhere else where it says l'sheichel, you're not allowed to have enough of it. And the Gemara brought a whole bunch of different rayas, a whole bunch of different cases where it says l'sheichel, where it doesn't mean isra hana. And in each of those cases, there's a special pasuk like b'kutzechem, tzartzechem, and trumoisechem, lachem, all the different psukim, whether it was by chodosh, whether it was by truma, whether it was by nazir, from all the different places in the Torah which is l'sheichel and it's not Hashem hana, the pasuk brought a special word to tell us that it's not Hashem hana. And the Gemara says at the end of the day, the only 2 things that are Asher B'Hana after all is said and done is Chametz B'Pesach and Shir HaNiskal. Then yesterday we had a gentleman by the name of Ahu Me'Rabbanan. And this Ahu Me'Rabbanan, Chaim Tzvi pointed out to me, he doesn't know why we never identified his name. But the Ahu Me'Rabbanan disagreed with Chizkiah that Lo Yochal is Mashma Isra Hana. He disagreed with Rabbi Vo that Lo Yochal means Isra Hana. Well, he didn't agree with him. He disagreed that you can't eat from nevela because he learns the Dvar Kiksovim like Rabbi Yehuda. He can't learn it from Oisai because he holds that Chulin Shenishchatu B'Azar is the Raisa. So we need Oisai for that. So he came up with a different source for the halacha that anytime it says L'Seichel, it means Isra Hana, and he knew it from. Let's bring the pasuk exactly. He learns it from the pasuk of Kol Chatas Tashuv Midama, from a Chatas that became puzzle because its dam was spritzed in the wrong place. If a Chatas has its dam spritzed in the wrong place, it becomes puzzle. And the Torah sticks in Ba'esh Tisarif, which is extra because we know that a Chatas that's dam is spritzed in the wrong place has to get burnt. So we said, if we don't need the Ba'esh Tisarif for the case of chatas that the dam was spritzed in the wrong place, let's apply it to Isur Achila. We don't need it for Isur Achila because every place where there's an Isur Achila it says L'Seichel. So let's apply it to an Isur Hana. If we learn it from the Eish Tisarif, maybe every Isur Hana should require Sreifa. And that he says the pasuk is B'Kodesh based Tisarif. B'Kodesh b'Sreifa, ben Kol Yisur and Shabbatar b'Sreifa. Now we're up to Chav Dalet Amud Aleph. The Gemara is going to challenge him. V'ha, v'hai, b'kodesh, b'eis tisarv, l'hach yudasa. Are you telling me that the b'kodesh b'eis tisarv is there to teach me that everywhere in the Torah where there's an Isra Achila, it automatically includes for Isra Hana? Hai mi boile l'chad Rab Shimon. We need the b'kodesh b'eis tisarv to teach us a chiddush that Rab Shimon taught us. Titanya, Rab Shimon Omer, b'kodesh b'eis tisarv, limeid al chatas, it teaches you that where do you burn a korban chatos that became possible for whatever reason? You don't burn it out of the Azara, you burn it in the Azara. And that's what you learn from the Kodesh based Yisara. Vainly Elazubal Vad, it's not only a Chatas whose dam was spritzed in the wrong place, where it says the words based Yisara in our Pasuk, the Kodesh based Yisara. Psuli Kodesh Kodeshim, Veimura Kodeshim Kalami 9. How do you know that all Pasuk Karbonis that are designed to be hukrav in the Azara when they become possible have to be burnt there? Minayin, Talmud Loimar, V'chol Ba'kodesh Ba'es Tisarif. So we learn from this pasuk, everywhere in the Torah where there's a carbon that becomes possible, it has to be burnt. So you can't use it to teach you for any time there's an Isser Achil in the Torah. We need it Lagufay, and we need it to share this halacha with other kabbanis that when they become possible, if they become possible, they have to be burnt in the Azara itself. So this Hahumer Rabbanan, who had his raya from this pasuk, now is stuck. Zok the Gemara, Omer Lei. So this Hahumer Rabbanan, again, for some reason the Gemara does not want to identify him. Omer Lei, Rabbi Yonason Rabach, my high krok Amala. Rabbi Yonason must also, Rabbi Yonason, who's your Rebbe, and we're talking about Shmuel ben Achmeni, was the one who was responding to this Hahumer Rabbanan. So this Hahumer Rabbanan told Shmuel ben Achmeni, your Rebbe, Rabbi Yonason, must agree with you that B'Kodesh Beis Tisarif is to teach you that these karbonos, if they become puzzle, you have to burn them in the Azara. Because he agreed with me that you cannot learn it from Chizkiah or from Abavo. Rather, he agreed with me that you need another pasuk to teach you that when it says Lo Seichal, it means an Isser Hana. Now, he can't learn it from my pasuk because of what you said, the limud of Reb Shimon. So he came up with another pasuk. So we're up to Svar number 5, right? We had 4 yesterday, and now we're up to number 5. Rabbi Yonason had a different makar for the halacha that whenever it says like Seichel, it's also banal. And it says in the pasuk, V'mivaser mipsar hameluim. So we're talking about noiser. V'mivaser mipsar hameluim umin alechem ad haboiker. Let's see what it says in the pasuk. V'mivaser mipsar hameluim umin alechem ad haboiker. So if there's noiser, the sarafta es ha noiser ba'esh lo ye'achel ki koydeshu. Shein Talmud Lomer lo ye'achel. Why did it say lo ye'achel? It already said Uma Talmud Lomer lo ye'achel. Why did the Torah have to tell you about noiser that's lo ye'achel? You don't need it to tell you that it's also to eat noiser. Right after that, the pasuk says v'sarafta sanoiser be'esh. Right before that, right before it says lo ye'achel, it says v'sarafta sanoiser be'esh. So if you have to burn it, of course you can't eat it. Oy bazoi, when it says lo ye'achel, it's extra. Say lo ye'achel is teaching you something by all Yisurim Shabbatorah. We don't need the lo ye'achel by noiser to teach you that all other Yisurim are asur b'achila, because we only know they're asur b'achila because the Torah says lo ye'achel by them. So therefore, tneyu inyan le'isra no. Since the word lo ye'achel by the pasuk of noiser is extra, it will be our makar that every lashon achila, every place where it says an isra achila, it means an isra hana as well. So that's our 4th pasuk, noiser. I ma kan b'sreifa.
Fifth. It's the 5th one, isn't it?
You said 4.
I'm sorry. It's number 5. It's number 5. That's correct. It is number 5. So I ma kan b'sreifa. I've called Yisurim Shabbatorah b'sreifa. If we're exporting this halacha from noiser, and we know by noiser there's a chi of sreifa, so we should argue that every Isra Achila, which automatically now becomes an Isra Hana, should also require Sreifa. And that the Gemara says, Amarkov is Sarafta as Ha Noisar, with a Hey Hayidiyah. Noisar b'Sreifa, Vein Kol Yisurin, Shabbatorah b'Sreifa. Correct, Gemara. Noisar is not good either. The Hai Lo Yoichal, Lahaki Huda Asa. Are you saying that the Lo Yoichal, by Noisar, and let me correct myself, Hai Lo Yoichal, that it says by Nosar, Lahachi Yuda also is to teach Isra Noah, B'chal HaTorah Kula, Haimi Boyele, we need a Lo Yachal by Nosar, L'chad Rabbi Elazar, to teach us a Chiddush that Rabbi Elazar taught us. Don't worry, Rabbi Elazar, Lo Yachel, Ki Koideshu. You're not allowed to eat, and that's a different pasuk. It says in the pasuk of Abasar, Asher Yiga B'chal Tomei. So now we're talking about Tumah. Abasar Asher Yiga B'chal Tomei, Lo Yachel, Ba'eshi Sarf, Abasar Kal Toyer, Yechal Basar. So Rabbi Elazar said, Lo Yachel, Ki Koideshu. And we learn from there, Kol Shabbat Kodesh Pasal. Anytime you have a psul by Kodesh, Ba'akosov, Litin Loisasa Alachilasai. Whenever there's a psul anywhere, even if we're talking about that psul, there is no lav, it's teaching us that there's a loisasa for it. And we learn it from Abasra Shiyiga B'chol Tomei. So let's see Rashi. Kol Shabbat Pasal. What does that mean? Kol Shabbat Pasal. We dichsiv ki koideshu yisera. It says over here, and it says ki koideshu by this basar. I'm sorry, it says by noiser. By noiser it says lo yachel ki koideshu. Let me go back a second. It says by noiser. Sorry, it says lo yachel ki koideshu. It says by noiser, and we learn from there that since the Kikoideshu in the parsha of Noiser, in the pasuk of Noiser is extra, the rabbis al sharp suli kachim. We learned that anything that becomes possible with karbonis is belav. There'll be an iser lav for it. When pigol, the yoyte, the nishbach. So how could you tell me that you're using? How you could tell me Rabbi Yonasan that you're using the pasuk of Noiser to teach me iser achila and iser no b'chol HaTorah kula? That lo yachel ki koideshu, I need to create a universal lav on all. I needed to create a universal lav on all psulei hamakdosh. So now we're stuck. So Amar Abaye l'olam mikra kama. Really, he learns it from the first pasuk, which is the chol chatos, which is the pasuk that the Ahumer Rabbana learned it out of, with the chatos that was spritzed in the wrong place, so it becomes possible. But ve'epoch, let's flip it around. We said earlier that the way the Ahumer Rabbanan made it extra was the be'eshi sarf was extra, because we already knew from a different pasuk that the chatos whose dam was spritzed in the wrong place, it gets burned. So why did the Torah repeat be'eshi sarf? The kasha we had was we need be'esh tisaref. We need be'esh tisaref to tell you that you always burn it b'makam kodesh. So be'esh tisaref wasn't extra. So we're going to answer that kasha, and we're going to say the lichtev kra be'esh tisaref. Let it say b'kodesh be'esh tisaref, and I would have known that it could be burnt in the right place. It has to be burnt in the azara, and I learned that it has to be burnt, and therefore it's also b'achila. So why did that pasuk say over there? Why did it say once it says beish tisarf? Why did it say loy seyachel? I don't need loy seyachel anymore. Mal tamadur loy seyachel. Why did it say? But a case of the karban chatas that became possible because the dam was spritzed in the wrong place. Why did it say there loy seyachel? So we could say the same Torah. I don't need it. I don't need a lav of lo yachel by a chatos that became possible, because we already learned Rabbi Elazar's limud, who learned from Noiser that any time there's a psul in any one of the kachim, it's included in the lav that it says by Noiser lo yachel. So why do I need the lo yachel or the lo yachel? Tneu inin l'chol yisurin shebetorah will apply the lo yachel by the chatos that the dam was pushed in the wrong place. That will apply the chol yisurin shebetorah. The main inin lachila tneu inin l'israna. In fact, the more imakam b'sreifa av kol yisurin shebetorah b'sreifa. Amakra hanoisar b'sreifa then kol yisurin shebetorah b'sreifa. So right now, we're learning halacha l'maisa. We're learning, even according to Rabbi Yonasan, we're learning the halacha that everywhere where it says like Soichel, there's Isra, we're learning from the pasuk of Chatas, but we're not learning it from the Beish Tisarif, because we need the Beish Tisarif to tell you that all karbanos have to be burned in the Azara. Rather, we're learning it from the Loisei Achel. The Loisei Achel is extra, so we can apply it everywhere. And what we learn from the Loisei Achel of Noiser, the Loisei Achel of Noiser, from that we learn that's the makar of lav. That is the lav for any psulim mikdashim. The loisasa stated by Noiser.
Yes. Did we slug up all the other sources, or they're all just different opinions?
No, Rabbi Chizkiah sticks to his, and Rabbi Vo sticks to his. The reason why the Huma Rabbanan couldn't is because he argued on Chizkiah and he argued on Ravo. So therefore, he needed to find his own source that any Isra Achila mentioned in the Torah also involves Isra No. So these are just different approaches to learn the same halacha. So
But
really,
there's no consensus at all here.
there's no just not everybody's learning from the same place.
That's right.
That's correct.
But everyone agrees. It seems to me that
everybody agrees that chametz is asher b'no.
That's right. Right. They're just a question of how do we know it? So everybody has their opinion.
Basically, when you turn on Waze, it gives you a choice of 3 or 4 different routes, and you could pick the route. You want to pay toll? Do you not want to pay toll? And it's just a question of how difficult you want it to be to get there, and which duty-free shop you want to stop off along the way. But at the end of the day, you still get to your destination.
All roads lead to one.
That's right. Okay, so let's see what we have over here. So method number 5, which was from Noisar, was just eliminated because we ended up needing Noisar to be the source of the lav to eat any psulei hamakdashim, and we defaulted back to reason number 4, which we learned from the chatas that the dam was spritzed in the wrong place. The only variation was that Humei Rabbanan used the Beish Yisara for it, which we need to tell you where you burn karbanos in the Azara, and we're using the Loisei Achel of that pasuk to teach us Isser Hana b'chol HaTorah kula. And you don't have Sreifa because Amakra Hanoiser b'Sreifa, then Kol Yisur and Shabbatari b'Sreifa, the Hanoiser that it mentions by the Hanoiser, the hate that it mentions by the Isser Noiser, tells us that you don't have to burn anytime you have an Isra. No, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to burn it. We're still not out of the woods yet, because how could you say that lo yeyachel by the chatos that became possible is extra, and therefore you can use it to teach you v'chol HaTorah kula Isra? No, maybe the chatos, the Torah wanted to give a special custom lav to this case of chatos, and the pasuk didn't want to rely on the general lav that it was included in. It wanted a custom lav. Why do you need a custom lav? What's wrong with being included in the general lav that all psulei hamakdashim are subject to? So if you're going to rely on the lav of Rabbi Lazar, which tells us that by Noiser it teaches you that all psulei hamakdashim have an Isra Achila, ain't loikin a lav shabacholis. Even though you're over a lav, but you wouldn't get malchus for it. And maybe the Torah wants to give a chiv malchus for somebody who eats a carbon chatos that became puzzle because the dam was spritzed in the wrong place. So maybe the lo yachel is not extra. But we need the lo yachel to express a lav so that you would get malchus for it. So therefore, we now have to back out of that as well. So now our plan B didn't work. So we've totally eliminated the possibility of learning Isra Noah from the case, from the pasuk that the Humei Rabbanan brought from the pasuk Lechatos. And now we're looking for a new pasuk, and now we found a new pasuk that discusses basar in basar kodesh, the basar of a carbon that becomes tummy. And there it says in the pasuk there, let's read it here inside. The basar ashayiga b'chol tummy. Basar that touches tummy, so basar of kachim that becomes tummy, lo yeyachel, it may not be eaten, but eish yisarif, it must be burnt. I read it before, but I read it prematurely. It's relevant over here. So what do we learn from there? It shouldn't have said lo yachel. Ma Talmud loimer lo yachel. Why does it say lo yachel in that pasuk? I don't need that pasuk to tell me that there's an Isra Achila on Basar that becomes Tamei. I could learn up the Isser to eat Kachim that becomes Tamei. I could learn it from the Isser of eating Meiser that becomes Tamei, or even using Meiser that becomes Tamei. What's the Kal V'Chomer? Uma Meiser Akal. Madach Meiser, which is Kal, it's not so Chomer like Kachim. Nevertheless, Omer Torah loy bi'arti mimenu b'tamei. In the Vidu Maisris, the person says loy bi'arti mimenu b'tamei. When it was tamei, I didn't use it at all. I didn't even light it up and use it in my menorah. I didn't use it. I did not use the Meiser when it was tamei. So that would indicate in the Gemara in Yavamis, it indicates that that's a lav. So madach by Meiser Akal. You're not allowed to have enough from it when it's tamei. Basar kodesh chomer, basar kodesh, which is much more chomer than meiser. Like also again, surely it should be usher to have enough from it. V'chitema, and if you're going to tell me ein masirin min adin, you can't give malchus to somebody if you only know the iser from a kal v'chomer. So therefore, you would suggest that I need a lo eichel by basar tamei to teach me that there's a lav there, because I couldn't learn up a lav l'gabi malchus from a kal v'chomer. Hekeshehu. Besides the kal v'chomer, I also have a hekesh. The Chesivit says, "Loisucha lechel b'sharecha, maser degoncha, siroishcha v'yitzarecha." So we've discussed meiser, and then it says, "U'v'chayish v'karcha," and let's see what else it says. V'tzaynecha v'chol midarecha asher tidar v'nidveisecha v'trumashadecha. So you see that kachim and maestris are hookers to each other. So therefore, we know from the hekesh that there's a lav to eat. There's a lav to eat kachim that became tamei. So why do I need the lo yachel? That's referring to the case where the kachim became tamei. Ma tamei lo yachel. And if I don't need it to tell you that there's a lav to eat kachim that became tamei, because I know it from the hekesh, tneyu inyan l'chol yisurin shabbat Torah. Apply the lo yachel to all the other yisurin in the Torah. Meina inyan lachila tneyu inyan lahana. Frek the Gemara, ioy bezoi makam b'sreifa av kol yisurin shabbat Torah b'sreifa. Just like basar tamei has to be burnt, maybe I'll learn from there to all other yisurim in the Torah that it has to be burnt. You still have the pasuk by Noiser that's broadcasting to the Isser world that Dafka Noiser b'Shreifa vein kol Yisurin Shabbat b'Shreifa. So Amalei Ravina Ravashi. Ravina told Ravashi, the Ema, you still don't have an extra pasuk by Basar that became Tamei. That Lo Yachol is still not extra. You know what? The Ema Laver Lav Vishnei Lavin. Maybe it says Lo Yachol to Yorvan Tu Lavin. It has the lav from the hekesh of Meiser, and it has the lav that's written by Basar Tamei itself. Lav mi Amar Abaye. Didn't Abaye tell us that Achol Putisa, if you eat a bug that's called a Sheretz Hamayim, Loika Arba, you get 4 malchus because there's 4 different sukim that cover Sheretz Hamayim. Rashi says, Chad lav b'Sheretz Hamayim b'Tosh Kahanim, to Sefer Vayikra. In Sefer Vayikra, it says a fair shalav to eat sheretz hamayim. Chad b'mishat Torah, one in the forum, and ushnei lav m'ksum b'Torah's kahanim b'shkatzim stam. And then there's two generic lavin for all type of shkatzim mentioned in Vayikra. So there's 4 altogether. You have 4 lavin for eating a putisa, which is a sheretz hamayim. Namala, if you eat in that, like a chamesh, you get 5 malchus because namala is a sheretz haaretz. And you have the 2 generic ones, and then you also have a pasuk that says v'chal hasheretz ala aretz shekel shelo yachel. So there's another pasuk that says beferish hasheretz aretz, and then it says v'chal hasheretz ala aretz like soichlum kishekel tzim, and then it says like shetamus lam shezechem v'chal hasheretz haremis ala aretz. So you have 3 specifically for sheretz aretz, and you have 2 general, it makes it 5. And tzira, which is a flying sheretz, like a sheish, you get 6, because you get the 5 from the orich, and there's one extra one that talks about a sheretz. So you see, there is such a zach that the Torah sometimes offers multiple lavin for the same avera. So therefore, the lo yachel by Tumas Basar, who said that's extra, because you know anyway there's an iser lav from the hekesh to meiser. Maybe you have 2 lavin, just like you have by the shratz. Amalei told him, if you cannot use the pasuk for anything else, then we say that the Torah means to offer an extra lav. But here we can use the lo yachel by basar tamei to teach us that all other isurin shebetorah have an isur hana. That's a good rasha. We would rather learn that than resort to saying that the Torah said 2 lavin for the avera of eating basar tamei. Fact the Gemara weiter. The basar ashiyiga b'chol tamei lo yachel the reisha lamali. Why do we need the basar ashiyiga b'chol tamei the reisha? So let's go back and look at the pasuk. So Rashi tells us, Hashad Amra kra lav lugufeyasa. Now that you're telling me that the pasuk of Abasar Shigam Chal Tamei Lo Yachel. Now that you tell me that the Lo Yachel is not referring to this case of Basar Tamei, rather it's referring to all the Yisuri Achila V'chol HaTorah Kula, right? So you don't need it Lugufeyasa Ela Lim Eina Inyan. So all it should say is V'asher Yiga B'chal Tamei Lo Yachel. Why is the word V'habasar there? V'habasar Lamali. Why do you need this word V'habasar? There's another pshat in Rashi that the kash is on the vav. It just said habasar shiga b'chol tamei. Why is there this vav? So Zok the Gemara l'rabbis eitzim l'vayna. This is a massive chiddush that we had before as well. It teaches us that eitzim and l'vayna, which are not edible, but they're part of the carbon, they also are treated just like the meat of the carbon, and they become asur b'hana if they become tamei. We learned earlier there's this concept of chibas hakodesh that makes something be considered like a meichel to become tamei. So this is one of the makaris that the Gemara earlier mentioned. Rashi brings it in the Gemara earlier. Now the end of that same pasuk, it said v'habasar kol Torah yechal basar. That's how the pasuk ended. So v'habasar kol Torah yechal basar the seifei lamali. What do we need it for? Again, the word is on the v'habasar. It's not on the kol Torah yechal basar because we need that to teach us a different limud. What we need the kol Torah yechal basar, we need it because of the next pasuk. We need it because of the next pasuk. Because the next pasuk says that if you eat basar when you're tamei, you get, I think you're chayiv kares. The very next pasuk, after that pasuk, is talking about a person who eats kachim when he is tamei. It says, so the very next pasuk after the habasar kol tahar yochel basar is talking about the chiv kares for somebody who eats kachim when the person is tamei. And this habasar kol tahar yochel basar teaches us that when are you chayiv kares if you eat kachim when you're tamei? That's if, other than you being tamei, the kachim could be eaten by anybody else. But if the basar is tamei, so if you're tamei and you eat basar as tamei, and the basar anyway can't be eaten by anybody else, then there's no chiv kares. So that's what you need kol Torah yechal basar for. But why did it say v'habasar kol Torah yechal basar? What's this extra v'habasar? V'habasar kol Torah yechal basar the seifei lamali. So tomorrow the rabbis inward to tell you that not only is there a chiyuv, a lav for eating meat of a carbon that's tamei, but even if you eat the murin that are tamei, you're also going to have that chiyuv lav. Fake the more a murim mehasam nafka, a murim that are tamei. I know from somewhere else that there's a chiyuv if you eat them when you're tamei. The Tanya, v'nevesh asher toichal basar mizevach hashalomim asher l'Hashem. And we learned from Asher Lashem, it could have said, if you eat meat from the Shlomim, what's Asher Lashem? It's telling you that even the part of the shlamim that's till Hashem, even the emurin, l'rabba says emurin. So you already know that the emurin has the same isser. Zok Gemara, hasam tumas aguf b'karis. In that pasuk, it's talking about if you ate emurim when you were tummy, you ate emurim tahirin when you were tummy. We're looking for when you're tahar, but the meat's tummy. Hacha tumas basar belav. If you eat emurin when the emurin are tummy, but you're tahar, the vabasar teaches you that you get a lot for that. Amar Abavo, Amar Bech. So now we're out of this sugya where we're looking for the makar that every isra achila is an isra no as well. And out of this last amud that we learned, it seems like we've still gone back to the original limud of the Humei Rabbanan. I believe we're still working with the Humei Rabbanan. No. At the end of the day, we're learning it from the Isser Tumah. That's right. We're learning it from the pasuk that says "Abasa shiga b'chal tamei lo yachal b'eish yisaref." That's where we're learning it from. That it says lo yachal by basa that becomes tamei. This lo yachal is extra because we would have known it from Meiser. So this is how the Gemara. This is the fifth option. So let's see what the Gemara says weiter. Now we have a whole new sugya, an interesting sugya. Zok tahila Gemara. Amar v'omer bechn kol yisurin sheb'Torah in loikin alayin ela derech achilasim. You're only going to get malchus for them if you eat them in the normal way. You have to eat them in the normal way. Lemute mai, what's called eating something not in the normal way? Amar p'shimi barashi lemute. Shebachal chaylev chai, if you eat raw fat, that's not a normal way to eat things. Shapotter, there you're going to be potter. You'll be potter from chorus because it's not the normal way to eat things. You don't get malchus for them, you don't get the chorus for them unless you had enough of them the normal way to have enough. What's called not derech hanasan? If you took the chaylev of a shar niskal and you put it on your makkah to soothe your wound, that's not the normal way to use shu potter. What is the normal way? Rashi is the normal way to use chaylev and their chanasela. Either it's designed to be used as a fuel, or or it's used to smear hides. That's not the normal way people would use chaylev. So Amar B'Zeir, Afanan Nami Tanina, ain't safe k'dis harbarim mishum arla. You don't get malchus if you have hana from arla. Ella al hayoytzi min azeisim umin anovim b'vad. Only from fluids that come out of zeisim and anovim, because those are considered fluids that we drink, and only those are considered fluids. Vilomitusim to einim v'rimoinim, the juices of strawberries, of figs, and pomegranates, loy, we don't. My time, lav mishum, the loy ka'achol, lahu derech hanasa. It must be because the norm is not to juice them. And since the norm is not to get juice out of them, if you got juice out of them, you're having enough from them in the non-conventional manner. And Reb Zeir said, and Reb Yochanan said, that when you have hana from something, shaloi kederech hana'asan, you don't get malchus. That's you have no raya from that brisa of the juices of tusim to enim and rimonim. Bishlami ashminin prigufa deloi achalei derech hana'asai shaper. If you would have been talking about in enjoying the peri itself, not the juice, but the actual peri itself, and you had an example of someone who enjoyed the peri itself, not in the normal hana, and you told me that this is a raya, that if you have hana from something, that I would accept from you, that you have a good raya, that if you had something, you're potter. Elahacha, the reason why you're potter when you take juice out of fruit that are not zeisim and not anovim is mishum de zeya ba'almahu. Juice is zeya ba'alma. It's never considered part of the peri itself. And that would be the reason why you would argue that you don't get malchus if you had those juices. Amar Abaye, Hakoyel Moedim, everybody agrees, the klaya kerem, by Klaya Kerem, Shaloikin Aleim, I feel Shaloikin Derchanost. If you have a no from Klaya Kerem, then you get Malchus, even if it was not Keder Chana. My timer, Mishum Deloiksiv Vuhachila. It never says like Seichel Klayim. What it says by Klayim, Rashi says, is Pentikdosh Hamalaya. You shouldn't plant.
Did we just lose him?
Hello?
Looks like it.
Oops. Maybe he'll be back.
Frozen in time.
We're almost at the finish line.
Yeah, right.
Usually comes back in a couple of seconds. David, how much longer do we have with this Tuma and Tahara? How many more blood?
I don't know. Seems you feel the same way about it as I do, but this piece right here is finally something a little easier.
Yeah, that's true, but I feel so out of it.
Yeah. Oh, there he is.
I got zapped. When did I lose you? Or when did I fall off?
No, right here by
Karen. This
Karen Klein here.
Okay, so Kerem, it doesn't use a lashon achila. It just says pentikdosh hamalaya. And therefore, there's no indication that you have to have a na from it b'derech hana'asim. When it says achila, whenever there's an iser a na, but it's initiated by an iser achila, that's where we learn that you have to even have a na from it b'derech hana'asim. But if it doesn't have a lashon of achila, there's no reason to assume that it has to be b'derech hana'asim. So, for the Gemara, may say, Easy ben Yehuda Aimer, Milayin lebasha b'chalav shu aser. How do you know that it's aser to eat basha b'chalav? Because it doesn't say anywhere. It says like shavashal gadi b'chalavimai. You're not allowed to make basha b'chalav, but it doesn't say anywhere that you're not allowed to eat basha b'chalav. So how do you know it's aser? Nemer kan ki am kadishata, v'nemer lahalon v'anchei kodesh tiyunli. So let's look at the psukim inside. It says. It says, "Lo yisaychlu chalavelu l'gerish b'shvech l'tena v'chala aymach l'nachi dinted ki am kadosh ata l'Hashem alakecha l'shavash l'gli b'chalavimoi." So when it says the iser to make basar v'chalav, it says am kadosh ata, and then in a different pasuk, it defines what kadosh means. V'anchi kadosh tiyinli u'basar b'asad treifa lo yisaychelu l'kelav tashlichun haysay. So since the word kadosh is associated with an iser achila, that's how you know that basar b'chalav is aser b'achila. So minayla basar b'chalav shu aser shenemar ki am kodesh ata. It says related to basar b'chalav. Nemer lahalon related to treifa manche kodesh tiyunli. Ma lahalon aser just like treifa is aser b'achila. Afkan aser. Vainly ala b'achila. Basar b'chalav we only know from treifa that it's aser b'achila. V'hana minayin. How do you know that basar b'chalav is aser b'hana? Amid kal v'chaymer. Uma orla. Madach orla, which is pears that grow on a tree for the first 3 years that produces pears. There's no avera done to produce orla. Every legally planted tree, the first 3 years is orla. Nevertheless, asura bahana. Orla is asura bahana. Basar b'chalav, shenevda ba'avera. Basar b'chalav, in order to get it, you actually have to do an avera. You have to be over the isra of l'shivashal g'di b'chalavimai. Einay din, shehei asur b'hana. Surely, basar b'chalav should be Asher Bahana.
Yosy, didn't we just finish learning that anywhere it says Achila unless there's a Mia or something special?
Yeah, but it doesn't say anything about Achila by Basar B'chalav. It says Lo Shavashal Gedi B'Chalavima.
No, but I'm saying, didn't we just say?
Whenever it says Lo Soichal, whenever the Torah says an Isra Achila, it automatically means Isra No.
You mean because now it's only a limud, that's why we get.
And I'll add to that. The limud is from Treifa, which is not Asher Bana. Right? The limud, how do we know that Basar is Asher B'chila? We know it from Treifa, where it says Oisoi, like Kelab Tashlichon Oisoi.
There we have there we have the meat. Okay, right.
So because of that, the Gemara reaches out to Arla. Amadach Arla, where to get Arla, you didn't do anything wrong. It's normal. Nevertheless, it's Asabana. So too, Basa B'chalav will be Asabana. In fact, the Gemara, you don't have a right from Arla. Mala Arla, Shekain, Lehoy Salah, Shasa Kosher. Arla, there was never a time where it was a mutter. Mashenka Basa B'chalav, Timer Basa B'chalav, Shoyshal Shasa Kosher. Before you cooked it together, they were both mutter. So maybe just because Arla has the Isra Noah, maybe that's because Arla doesn't have a Shasa Kosher. The Basa B'chalav, which has a Shasa Kosher, maybe it should be mutter bano. So the Gemara Chametz v'Pesach Yechiach. So Hoyel Shasa Kosher. Chametz v'Pesach had a Shasa Kosher before Pesach. V'Asur bano, and nevertheless it's Asur bano. In fact, the Gemara Mal Chametz v'Pesach shekin anish karis. Chametz v'Pesach there's an Isra karis on. There's no Isra karis for Basa B'chalav. Tomer v'Basa B'chalav she'ein anish karis. So the Gemara Klai Akerem Yechichu. We can learn this from Klai Akerem. She'ein anish karis. There is no Isra karis for Klai Akerem. The Asur bano means Asur bano. Frank the Gemara, Vim Isa, if you hold that Klai Akerem is unique, that it's the only Isra Hana that you can be over, even Shaloi Kader Hana Asan, well then how could I learn Basa B'chalav from Klai Akerem? Nefrech, Mala Klai Akerem, Shekein Loikan Aleim, Afilu Shaloi Kader Hana Asan. But Basa B'chalav, it's only Kader Hana Asan, because it starts off with Nisra Achila. So how could you learn from Klai Akerem that Basa B'chalav should be Asur bano? But Abaye, Toimar, so Abaye was the one who said that Klayim, Abaye is the one who said that things that are Shaloi Kader Chana Asan, you're not Chayiv on. So Abaye Toimar, the Ma Toimar, the Basa B'chalav, Shein Loikan Alav, Ela Der Chana Asay. What are you talking about? Atu B'Basa B'chalav Achiluk Sivei? Fakert. Abaye will tell you that the only reason why I said things that things have to be derech hanasan is only because it's a lashon of loisaychal. By basa b'chalav, there is never a lashon of loisaychal. You might learn it out of treifa, but it doesn't say that isur loisaychal by basa b'chalav. So maybe basa b'chalav will also be asur shaloi kederech hanasan. The idach the kamayzav law, and the person who would ask this kasha and claim that basa b'chalav would be mutter shaloi kederech hanasan. Savar lahachi kagamer minavela. We're learning basa b'chalav out of treifa. It says nevela, but it means treifa. Mal nevela derech hanaasa. Just like by nevela, we know it's only asa it's kederech hanaasa. Av basa b'chalav derech hanaasa. V'abaye lahachi la'kasav achila b'gufay. The reason why he didn't say an isra achila b'ferish by basa b'chalav, we only learn it out of treifa, is loymar shaloi kanalav afilu shaloi kederech hanaasa. It's to teach us that you get malchus by basa b'chalav, even shaloi kederech hanaasa. The Torah could have wrote lo yochal basa b'chalav. It didn't. It made us learn the isra basa b'chalav through kodesh from nevela. Why? Because the Torah didn't want to use the expression of lo yochal by basa b'chalav, because the Torah b'dafka wanted to show that it's usher even shaloi kederech hanaasa. I guess we could stop here because we're fine ahead.